Welcome to Legal and Wealthy, the podcast for lawyers who are ready to stop playing small and start building true wealth and a career and life of their dreams, powerfully and purposefully. Whether you're a law student, new associate, or seasoned attorney, this show is for those who are ready to take charge of their law career in a new way. I'm your host, Lauren Klein, attorney, law firm owner, professor, and founder of Legal and Wealthy. Here, we don't just practice law, we practice liberation and becoming wealthy attorneys. Because being a great lawyer shouldn't come at the cost of your time, your peace, or your financial freedom. Every week, you'll get the strategy, mindset, and wealth building guidance that law school never gave you. So you can go from just surviving your career to building a legacy through it. Let's get to work. Welcome back to the Legal and Wealthy podcast. Today's guest is someone who has been doing work that I believe strongly that every estate planning attorney, anyone who's ever drafted a trust, written a will, or sat across a family navigating inheritance really needs to hear this conversation and understand it deeply. And anyone who is dealing with their own money stories and building their own wealth will also greatly benefit from this conversation. My guest today is the founder of the Wealth Conservancy, a TEDx speaker, a Huffington Post contributor, and a financial advisor who has been listed among the country's top advisors by Worth magazine and the author of 4 books. Oh my goodness. So many incredible things. And of course, we'll let our guest talk for herself, but she lives in Colorado with her husband and dog. And I love this. Are you still taking the tap lessons?
Oh, shoot. I just had Achilles tendon surgery, so not now.
But I love that you were doing that. And I hope you've recovered or you're recovering from your surgery. Oh, but welcome, Myra Salzer. Welcome to Legal and Wealthy. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you. It's kind of funny. I just flashed on listening to that introduction. It's kind of like waiting for, here comes the cake and they're waiting for you to sing happy birthday. And you just have to sit there quietly knowing it's coming. And okay, now we're ready to go.
Now we're ready to go. Now we're ready to go. So I'd love to hear who is Myra beyond just what you do professionally? Who are you?
Well, I think beyond what I do professionally is probably pretty boring. I love to read. I love to cook. I love to entertain. I love to spend time with my kids and sons-in-law and dogs and cats. I have a wonderful husband, and that's my life. So I guess most of my life is associated with the Wealth Conservancy, actually, to tell you the truth.
It's a beautiful life. It's a beautiful life. So you founded the Wealth Conservancy in 1983, is that right? Wow. So that's, over 4 decades of working with people who've navigated inherited wealth. Really starting at a time, I think, when people weren't talking about money as much as maybe we are now, and especially the psychological dimensions of money. So I'd love to hear what got you into this area and specifically what led you into working with inheritors of significant wealth.
There is a Genesis story that I'll tell you. I was starving, the only financial advisor. I mean, super starving. And a couple of women come see me, and I was really excited. Wore my blue suit. I rented the conference room, and they had the 10 o'clock appointment and didn't show up and didn't show up and didn't show up until finally 10:40 and came in, and I said, "How can I help you?" And he's like not making contact with his eyes, and I was looking down, and he goes, "Well, the only known source of income I've ever had is just, I don't have it anymore. I don't know what to do." And I thought, oh, shoot, this is not what I was hoping for. And I said, well, how can I help you? What can I do if you don't have any income? And I said, so what can I do for you? And he said, well, I turned 35 last week. I've lived off my trust income all my life. my trust terminated, and now I have $18 million. I don't know what to do with it. And I thought, oh my
Oh my
gosh, he
gosh.
had no preparation. He was fourth generation, and his father had lived off trust income. His grandfather lived off trust income, and no one could teach him how to relate to $18 million, which was a lot of money in the 80s. So anyway, I thought, they didn't teach me how to deal with this in the College for Financial Planning. But what I did do was I was able to gather other inheritors and create a workshop for them so we could support each other. And that initial workshop in '89 is what defined the niche that I've continued with ever since.
Wow. What an incredible story. Incredible story. And I find it so fascinating. I know in your TEDx talk you mentioned, doing these workshops and how while a lot of people may not realize it, inheritors are a minority because few people end up, especially with great wealth like that, and it does impact their lives and how they relate to people and how people relate to them. And I found it very fascinating that you had them do an exercise of explaining what a person without wealth looks like and what a person with wealth looks like. I'd love to hear what is that exercise and what are some common
That
money perceptions people have?
Yeah. So we did an exercise where we had two flip charts. One flip chart was, this is what rich people do and eat and think and blah blah blah, and this is what poor people do. And it was very. These are all people who have inherited enough that paid work doesn't make any difference in their life. And yet, they had their prejudices too. Poor people drink beer, rich people drink champagne. Poor people go camping, rich people go, have private planes and go wherever they want. It was so, having them look at their own prejudices was really enlightening for them. Like, oh yeah, I can see how people have judgments about me. I have judgments about them. And let's get beyond that.
I find it so interesting that no matter what wealth level you're at, we all do that, right? We all have as human beings judgments of one another. And I'm wondering what are the results or what impact do you see that having on their lives and their relationships?
Their confidence, their self esteem. I think everybody can relate to this. If you've been given something for nothing, there's this like disconnect between. Whereas if you've worked for it, sweated for it, really tried and earned it, you own it in a completely different way. It's yours. Your self esteem rose with your.
I guess in your experience, when people have significant wealth, and let's say that's 50 million, or let's say that's a lawyer who all of the sudden they're in big law and they're earning $500,000 a year. What steps do you think when someone either, and these are obviously two very different things, and either inherits or all of a sudden has income coming in that they never expected before? What are the steps to take to relate to others and to protect themselves? This episode of Legal and Wealthy is brought to you by Law Firm Sites. Law Firm Sites has been building custom websites and providing online marketing for law firms for over 23 years. They are good at what they do because that's all that they do. If you are looking to expand the reach of your firm or just improve your online presence, Law Firm Sites has the team to do it. Go to lawfirmsites.com or call 1-800-932-8242 and mention Legal and Wealthy to receive 10% off any of their website or marketing packages.
Well, firstly, between the attorney and the beneficiary, their relationship with money and with life are very different. And the attorney or entrepreneurs or earners, they are future oriented. Oh, if I got 500,000 this year, maybe next year I can get 600,000 or 700,000. So they're future oriented and abundance oriented, and they have a fear of missing out, so they work, 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 and they're socially respected and they're confident. Whereas an inheritor who gets $50 million, this is a legacy that's come from them. So they're not future based, they're legacy based. And there's a scarcity orientation. This money isn't going to come again. Mom's not going to die again, or this trust, there are no more trusts that will terminate. So there's a fear of loss. And they have to meet people every day who have a hostile envy towards them. So where the earner is socially respected, the inheritor can be vilified. And so those are huge differences in how they come about.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, when as we're talking, I think about families like the Vanderbilts, right? And so many other examples of massive wealth where it was not what it once was. What kind of support attorneys, from a financial professional, CPAs, do you think families need so that doesn't happen?
That's a really good question, Lauren, because I don't know that that's what you want to happen. I think so many attorneys are trained to how to minimize estate taxes, how to make sure this dynasty trust can last for 300 years. And is that really serving the beneficiaries? When beneficiaries are told we don't trust you, so we're going to protect you from creditors and from divorcing spouses and liabilities. And we're going to just pull out a little bit for you so that the money can grow for your great great grandchildren. And that's the training attorneys are getting now for these dynasty trusts. And is that really in society's best interest? Is that what's best for the heirs, who then have to play this game of appealing to a trustee for their livelihood rather than creating something, doing something with their own ideas and being an entrepreneur or whatever. So I think the, the current focus on longevity and legacy is really unfortunate. And I've taken legacy and turned it around and call it the Ysicle. What's the Ysicle? What are you going to give away now? What are you going to give away your kids now? Ysicle is legacy spelled backwards. And how are you going to make this a powerful tool and gift now rather than a transaction in 50 years or 100 years?
So walk us through what could that look like for an affluent family in 2026? They sit down with you, maybe with the T&E lawyer in the room, or maybe this is a pre-conversation. What is that looking like for that family in real time?
Well, getting to know the family's first step. How old are their kids? Do they trust them? Are they, how parenting is going on? So often, parenting is substituted for care. So a very wealthy family might not parent, but they'll have nannies and boarding schools and stuff. So that is something I need to understand. The attorney needs to understand, what is the relationship? How responsible are their kids? How educated are they? And at what point can a gift, and I mean a gift, not a transaction, a gift be made that will enhance their lives rather than ruin their lives? And then facilitate those gifts.
And I'd love to hear, since you're seeing this, you're in this world, your clients are the inheritors. When you're seeing them inherit in these trusts, what are some of the big downsides? I know we touched on, sometimes it's telling them, okay, maybe I didn't trust you, so I kept it in trust, or I didn't like your choice in spouse, or I didn't trust your choice in spouse. What impacts are you seeing on these inheritors when they're receiving everything tied up in these trusts? And is there anything is there a happy medium where it can stay in trust, but there's mechanisms that kind of alleviate
Yeah,
these?
I like that. So most people don't respond well to the idea of an incentive trust because might as well call it a bribe trust. But I think if you called it a cause and effect trust, if you do this, then you get that. So that there is some relationship with how a beneficiary receives money from a trust. And if that was, for example, we wanted to, the wealth owner wanted to teach entrepreneurial skills, well, come up with a business idea and go out and do the work to get a loan or get investors, and this trust will double it. Or you want to have kids and you want to be a teacher or an artist, and I want to support you in having a family. So I can make distributions based on what you choose to do for a living, but do something for a living. Be a good parent. Take time off. So these are all things that a trust document can allow for that will enable a beneficiary to really own their assets like they earned it.
I love that. And I love that perspective because I do agree that, as trusts and estates and tax attorneys, and for everyone who's listening who's in the same world that I am, we get our tax LLM and they talk about how to protect against estate and gift tax. And nowadays, income tax as well has become a hot topic with irrevocable trusts. But there's the human side. There's the real people on the other side of the planning, whether it's trusts or family limited partnerships or whatever it might be. How do you think that lawyers can get better at understanding their clients and learning about the families and tailoring a plan that is tax is a factor, of course, but that really how can we get better at tailoring the plan to the family?
Ask a lot more questions about the family. Get an agreement from your client that what you want, what they want to accomplish. And rather than having this questionnaire, do you want to minimize estate taxes? Do you want this to last 5 generations? Of course, they're going to want to minimize estate taxes. But asking questions like, how, how would you like your kids or grandkids to receive them? Or how would you like to be viewed? Or how can we involve your family now? Philanthropically or just outright gifts or family meetings so that they are incorporated into the process. And if you need to bring in or want to bring in a mediator of some sort, that's a great idea. I think that attorneys get caught up in the hourly rate dilemma. You have to be efficient, have to do this in so many hours or the client's going to complain, and you can't just sit back and be accommodating to that hourly rate and the needs and understanding and getting to know your client and being totally understanding. I so many attorneys that I've seen draft documents without really ever seeing a net worth statement and how all the assets are titled. And so they come up with a great plan that doesn't work.
That's wild. That's wild to think about from my perspective, but I believe it because I see the plans, or I see the unfunded trusts, or I see the cookie cutter even for very wealthy clients. So I that's a That's a soapbox I could definitely get on for way too long. I agree. I agree. It's well, I wanna ask you this because this is something that has come up a lot on this show. This has come up a lot in the conversations that I'm having with attorneys, the billable hour. What are you seeing in the attorneys that you work with that you bring into the fold with your clients? What are they doing? Because I agree, coming from big law where the billable hour was king or queen, and even serving very, very high net and ultra high net worth clients, they read their bills, right? They're not the corporations, they're not these big M&A deals. They read their bills. I don't care if they're worth $1 billion or more, they still read it. What are you seeing lawyers doing differently? Is it some sort of value-based fee? Is it a flat fee? What is it that we can, because I do think that the billable hour does get in the way of building that relationship. I fully agree. I'm still in the boat of like, okay, so what do we do? How can we do better?
I think everybody responds negatively to surprises. Oh my God, it's this many hours? I didn't know. So I think in advance explaining this could cost $50,000 to get your estate plan. But when you think about, that's half a percent of your net worth, isn't that worth it? With us, we tend to be making the referral to attorneys because our clients are from all over the states and we don't have attorney relationships in every state. Most of our clients already have an attorney that they use or an attorney firm that they use, but we incorporate them and then just prepare them for what's involved. What's involved time-wise, what's involved financially, how this can look, how long it can take, and then there are no surprises in our discipline.
We have a paralegal we work with who calls it bill surprise, and you're right. No one likes bill surprise. It's so true. It's so true. Thank you for that. I do think that communication and giving clear guidelines is very key. I have found. So thank you for that. I want to talk about your TEDx talk for a little bit. So great. Everyone should definitely go and watch it. It's called The Wealth Prejudice: How It Affects Us. Unpack that if you would for our audience. What is wealth prejudice and why does it matter?
just just about everybody has a relationship with money. Some hate it, some love it, some covet it, some give it away. I mean, everybody has a relationship with it, and therefore a judgment about people who have it or don't have it. And the wealth prejudice that I was talking about was what people, how people feel about inheritors. And and really, I think inheritors should go in the same category as any minority. If you consider that a minority is someone who doesn't fit into the norm, so an inheritor doesn't fit into the norm, who didn't do anything to be in that position. A African American didn't do anything to become African American; they just are. Well, an inheritor didn't do anything to be in that position. They stick out from others, and people have judgments about them. So they're a minority. And it's a minority that's kind of invisible, kind of like the deaf people can hide their disability and not stick out immediately. And so I do see that inheritors oftentimes, in trying to hide, become anonymous, won't get out there and just be who they are. And yeah, I've got money. Oh, well, I'm still a good person. And I don't, so anyway, it's, I think that's the, I gave examples in the TEDx talk about how we all have prejudices, and in this case, against people with inherited wealth.
Yeah. It was great. It was great. We'll definitely link it in in the show notes because I really enjoyed it. I think everyone will get a lot from it. You've said, I don't think it was in the TEDx talk, but you said before that a person without financial resources has to figure out a way to solve the problem. The wealth owner does not necessarily have to. And oftentimes the inheritors don't get that skill set to solve the problem other than throwing money at it. How do you think that costs inheritors in the long run?
Um, it's kind of similar to how AI is costing young people their thinking power. I mean, if you don't have to work for something, you don't have to navigate it, you're not going to learn from it. And sometimes you don't need to learn from it, and that's okay. You can just spend money and solve the problem, or ask AI and get the answer. But you want to be able to periodically flex your problem solving challenges. That's a really important muscle to build. And a lot of times, people with a great deal of money hire that muscle out. Go organize this party. Go plan my trip. Go do this. Go do that. And they don't need to go exercise that planning muscle or that problem solving muscle. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And since you're hanging with these folks, what do you encourage them to exercise that muscle? And I think this applies to inheritors, to young lawyers relying on AI, it kind of goes across the board. How can people exercise that muscle even if they maybe don't need to, but they should because it's better for them?
I think they have to want to. They have to want to accomplish that. You can't delegate everything. You can't have someone else do your push-ups. Just won't work. So you can
Darn.
so you can look at it the same way. Yes, I want to be fit. I want to be mentally fit. I want to be emotionally fit. And if that's the goal, then back titrating to what it's going to take to get there is what we work with them.
I have a question that is kind of in that same line of thinking, but also a little bit different. You and I, we both work with clients who come into wealth through loss, whether it's the loss of a spouse or a parent, the loss of a marriage, whatever it might be, and inheritance, which is tied to loss. What do you think is unique about inheriting wealth in that manner? Um, and how do you see that affecting your clients' money stories? Hey, let's be honest. Are you a high functioning attorney or law student, but kind of low key exhausted, maybe successful on paper, but secretly wondering, is this it? That's exactly why I created the Wealthy Lawyer Reset. It is a 6-day reset for lawyers and law students who are done with burnout, chaos, money, energy, and just running on fumes. For 6 days, we reset your mindset, your money, and your nervous system because we cannot build true wealth and have great health if we are living in survival mode. It's just the fact of the matter. And because I am that kind of girl, we end with a virtual yoga session with the Aman Costigan. So you're not just wealthy on paper, you're regulated, grounded, and actually enjoying your life. This is not about hustling harder. It's about recalibrating everything so your wealth and your health can feel calm, aligned, and sustainable. If you're ready to enter your wealthy lawyer era without burnout, join me inside the Wealthy Lawyer Reset. 6 days, one reset, a completely different relationship with money, your health, and your success. Check out the show notes or go to my Instagram to learn more about the Wealthy Lawyer Reset.
Actually, I mean, yes, definitely there's a loss, especially if it's coming from a loved one. And that's a different issue than someone who suddenly finds themselves with a great deal of financial resources and really they have a loss. They have to go through a mourning process. They have lost the life they knew up until that time as a person with this kind of financial resource, because now they have this kind of financial resource. And so attorneys should give as they're settling estates, should recognize that the person who's probably the one who's the executor or personal representative has to go through this mourning process before they become efficient. And to get them help at that point so they recognize what's going on. And especially when it's a big windfall, the normal pervasive idea is, oh my gosh, you just got $100 million. Aren't you happy? And no, not necessarily. I lost my mom. I lost my old life. My relationships changed. My husband is now asking for a loan. Whatever. So I think that's what attorneys can do as they settle estates, is recognize that really important. You cannot avoid an unavoidable emotional response to any kind of any transition, I should say. It's going to have an emotional turmoil that one needs to go through and process. And for some, it takes 3 days, and for some, it takes 3 decades.
Mm. It's interesting that you say that because we have had several clients hire us for probate admin on the sole basis that we started the call off with, "I'm sorry for your loss." And they said, no one else said that to me. I interviewed 3 or 4 other lawyers and they didn't say that. And I think I know why. I think we just get in our day to day and we see it as another matter and another client and we're trying to be efficient, but we forget these are real humans with real grief and real loss and that are going through something very difficult, whether it's again $50 million or $500,000 condo. It doesn't matter. You all of a sudden you have grief and you don't feel like yourself. And then that also can come with a whole other world, especially if you're inheriting significant money. So I thank you for highlighting the importance of being a human and understanding and putting yourself in that person's shoes of what they're going through so you can be a good advocate. I love the work that you've been doing since you formed the Wealth Conservancy, building a non-judgmental space for people who are navigating the turbulence of the wealth. I learn something from you every time that we speak, and I appreciate having you in my world so I can get this advice from you and so we can learn from you. Where can everyone go and find out more about you and your work? And of course, we'll link everything in the show notes as well.
Thank you. Yeah. Company name is the Wealth Conservancy. You can go to thewealthconservancy.com or twcinc.org. And you can email me at Myra at twcinc.org. And give me a call, whatever. I'm available. I love.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who listened today. If your conversation reminded you about your own relationship with money or how you relate to your clients, I think it's worth examining. Maybe go back and listen to this again, take some notes of how to better approach your client base. I think this conversation is incredibly important. Thank you so much, Myra, for being here today, taking the time out of your busy schedule. It's truly an honor. Me too. Thank you. We'll talk soon. Bye, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Legal and Wealthy. If today's episode sparked something in you, take it one step further. Share it, leave a review, or come connect with me inside the Legal and Wealthy community. Remember, wealth isn't just about the numbers. It's about how you lead, how you live, and how you build beyond the billable. You already have what it takes to create real freedom and wealth. I'm just here to help you claim it.